Yo, what is up, YouTube family? In this video, I want to talk about some of the key lessons and insights that I took away from my first job ever, which when I was 15 years old, I actually got a job at Subway making sandwiches. My family growing up, we were never wealthy. We just didn't have a whole lot of money to spare. And, my parents, they worked a lot of different part-time jobs to make ends meet and put food on the table for us. It wasn't always easy for us, but we never went hungry. We always had a roof over our heads. And so for that, I was very fortunate and very thankful for all those things. But anytime me or my brothers wanted extra stuff, if we wanted to, buy the latest toy or buy a new bicycle or whatever that was, my parents had to save and they had to plan ahead to make sure that they would have the financial resources to take care of that stuff. So when I turned 15 and a lot of my friends in high school started to show up at school with brand new cars, Honda Civics and Acura Integras and RSXs and all these different types of cars, I wanted one myself. And to be honest, the motivation for me to get my first job was to make enough money so that I could buy a car, pay for the insurance and the gas and all those things. I was pretty immature back then, and that was sort of the motivation. And, who knows, maybe that actually served a longer term purpose, but that's really why I got my first job, because I wanted to make money and pay for those things. And so back then, when I was 15 years old, there were only a few companies and a few places that would hire 15-year-olds. And the first job that I got was at Subway. And no one would call Subway a glamour job by any means, but for me, it actually meant a lot for me. And I also learned a lot of lessons that I want to share with you guys today. And in my personal opinion, I think everyone can learn from having a minimum wage job where you're either flipping burgers or cleaning office spaces or doing anything that requires a lot of manual labor, because I think there's a lot of lessons there that you can take away. And so the three things that I want to talk about that I took away from this first job was, first of all, the value and the appreciation of money. Back then the minimum wage I think was around $6.50. Today it's probably closer to $13.50. But when you're making that kind of money, when I first received that first paycheck, it seemed like a lot. And of course, when I started to realize, hey, I would have to work X number of hours to pay for gas or buy obviously a used car that was within my budget, I realized that this was going to require a lot of effort, a lot of time. And that's where I sort of learned to value time and money. And when you work a part-time job, when you work a minimum wage job, you learn about the appreciation for money. You realize that every time you spend that money, you think about the time that you put in and the sweat equity that you had to put in to make that living. And so I think a lot of people who don't go through that process, or who are just given everything, or who may have a trust fund and not really forced to be in that position where they have to work to make a living, I think they probably treat money a little bit differently. And so for me now, many years later, having gone through that experience, I now appreciate the amount of time and effort it takes to earn a buck. And I think that's a great lesson for all of us. Now, the second lesson that I want to share with you guys is that I realize that no job is unimportant. So taking the example of Subway, working inside of a Subway, you're doing everything. You're cleaning before and after the store opens. You're obviously making sandwiches. You're in the back room managing the supplies and all the different ingredients that are coming in. You're cleaning the dishes. You're obviously managing a lot more than just the making of the sandwiches, managing the cashier, customer service, all of those things. And all those skills are very important for people. Those are skills that I think pay off later on in your life when you get, let's say, a blue collar job or white collar job, and you're having to deal with upper management or office politics or all kinds of things, dealing with customers, dealing with partners. Those fundamental skill sets, I think, are foundational for building good best practices and good habits later on in life. And working in a minimum wage job will teach you those things. Everything you do in that kind of environment has a purpose. And although in the moment you might not think it actually is fun or you're learning anything from it, later on you're going to realize that all of those experiences are going to add up over time and give you a better understanding of what it takes to keep your customers happy, or provide good service, or to provide a good product. All these lessons, I think, creates a strong foundation for when you want to create your own startup one day, or if you work in a corporate setting. Not only that, you also get opportunities to grow, and you also get to experience what it's like to even manage politics, even at that level. When you're competing with your other coworkers for promotions, dealing with those things on a smaller scale where maybe the value and the impact isn't as big can teach you skills and teach you lessons where you don't have to make the same mistakes down the road. And the third lesson that I took away from my minimum wage job is the fact that it really made me develop the hunger for something more. For most of us, working a minimum wage job or working in a fast food place is not what we want to do for the rest of our lives, hopefully. When you work in those kinds of settings, you start to develop a hunger for something more. You realize that, hey, there's more to life than this, and there's a lot more that I could be doing with the talent or the skills and the experience that I'm developing over time. And it's a great stepping stone to go out and do other things. From that job that I had at Subway, it allowed me to get into retail and also then pivot into accounting and finance. Each of the roles that I've taken on were sort of a building block for something bigger and better. You know, working a part-time job where you're just making minimum wage is going to give you the opportunity to grow. It's going to give you the opportunity to make a lot of mistakes in a setting where the stakes aren't as big. Those are all the things that I think benefit you and will only help you, even though you might not realize it. You know, a lot of people downplay minimum wage jobs. They downplay part-time jobs where you're just doing customer service or cleaning or whatever it is. But honestly, if you're a young kid, if you're a teenager and you're looking to make some money, you're looking for something to do with your free time, and you want to just learn and grow and develop these strong habits, I think it's a great place to start. Now, if you, of course, have the opportunity to go and create software or do boot camps or join a startup and do other things, that's great too. But, you know, don't knock it just because society says, hey, it's beneath you or it's unimportant, right? I think there's a place for every job that's out there. And I think there's a lot of value and growth and opportunity that you can find if you look for it. And that's my story, guys, of my first job experience working at a Subway and some of the lessons that I've learned. I'd love to hear what were your first jobs? You know, what did you learn from it? What did you take away? And how has it let you get to where you are today? Anyways, that's all I've got for this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.